If you believe in freedom, then we're all Jews, because the Jews are the first domino that goes. And then you don't think that domino is coming for you, but guess what? Once the first domino goes, the dominoes start rolling. And Rabbi, we live in a world now that has 5.7 billion people that are living under authoritarianism, and the autocrats are winning. It's 5.7 billion people living under them versus us. So we have to figure this out, and we have to take back the world and make it freer and fairer.
Amen, amen, amen.
When I think about Judaism, it makes me think of the West, and it makes me think of Western liberalism. And what I try to explain to my friends is that you can trace our values back to the Torah. You can go right to the foundation stone of the temple and all the teachings of the ancient Torah, and you can find the laws, whether it's the Ten Commandments or other moralisms in the Torah. They have been reflected in the Western canon of law through Greece, out to Rome, into the French, and even in the aftermath of the French Revolution, British common law, King John, the Magna Carta, the American Revolution, the Declaration of Independence. Every aspect of Western liberalism and the idea of freedom, sir, has come from the ancient text. And so what I find astonishing is that we don't acknowledge that enough as a society. There's some kind of disconnect. And so one, why do you think there is that disconnect? Well, do you believe what I'm saying? And if you do, why is there a disconnect? And then the second follow-up question to that is what can we do to make that better? What can we do to resolve that?
Look, I'm a Jew. I'm partisan. I'm a big cheerleader of this thing called Judaism. So I do believe, as an American Jew, that some of our core values can be traced right through the Western tradition, right to the Hebrew Bible, and you listed a few of them, right? The idea that we can distinguish between good and evil, and that there is moral choice that is endowed on us by our Creator. The idea that every human being, black, white, straight, gay, tall, short, is created in the image of God, and therefore to be extended equal and infinite dignity. These are values, and we could go through them through the Ten Commandments and otherwise, that are embedded not just in the Jewish tradition, but in the Western tradition. And it's really a expression of that very first call out to Abraham to go forth to the land, and you shall be a blessing, that we are proud of our Judaism, but it's not an insular Judaism. It's a Judaism to be shared with the world, that we have value added to give to a broad secular humanity or other faith traditions. Your question is, why has that been stifled? What is the fear? And I don't know. I think that the persistence of the Jew through the ages, the Romans, the Greeks, the Babylonians, other kingdoms are no longer, the Jews are still here. I think we are the pebble in the shoe to humanity. To those who like us, we are a miracle or perhaps a curiosity, but to those who hate us, we are the victims, and therefore all that which is Jewish becomes the object of hatred. So what do you think? I mean, I know I'm the guy being interviewed, but you grew up in with Jews, with non-Jews, and otherwise. I would hear slurs every so often, but where hatred actually comes from of the other.
This will probably get me in trouble on my own podcast, so I'll answer it with envy. And what I'll say to you is, it's not even a religious thing; it's an envy thing. And so, and I'm not trying to be stereotypical, sir. So forgive me if it sounds stereotypical. I'm just going to give an observation from my life. So editorialism, the culture of Judaism, okay, the secular culture. Forget about the Torah for a second. Is family values, and a commitment to education. And it sometimes centers around the mother, or usually around the mother. And the kids are taught to educate themselves, because no person can take their education away. And they're taught about the struggle and the diaspora and the ravages and the cyclicality of anti-Semitism. And so if you're educated and you're equipped, you can move to another country, or you could be portable with your brain. And they've gone on to become very successful. Jews objectively have punched over their weight economically. They have a big impact on a planet of 7 or 8 billion people. There's 14 or 15 million Jews. They obviously have a big impact on what I think is one of the most important cities in the world, New York City. And there's a lot of envy because people are envious. And so unfortunately, when people get envious, it's one of the worst of the 7 sins. Self-victimization, feeling pity for themselves, and envy. And we know that the weakest leaders in our society will scapegoat others. Weakest leaders are not aspirational, they're divisional, and they will find scapegoats to blame whatever society's problems may be on. And so it's been an easy target for the Babylonians, the Romans, the Germans. You pick the group of people, it's an easy target, and people can adhere to it, And I think it's as simple as that. So I may be wrong about all that, but what I want to ask about, because there's something you write about in the book that's left deep impact on me, which is this notion that there's a hyphen.
Yeah.
You're a Jewish American. You're a British
Italian
Jew.
American.
Italian American. There's a hyphen. And how do you reconcile the hyphen, right? Because there has to be, coming out of the Holocaust, the idea that there could be a country, a Jewish state, that would provide a safe haven for Jews after that type of a senseless, innocent massacre makes sense to me. I'm a supporter. I'm a Zionist. And so in other words, and also the narrative, if I'm just being brutally honest, okay, the narrative has been falsified. The idea that it's an apartheid state, the idea that it's a unequal treatment of people sort of situation, I don't think that is it at all. Remember what 𝗕cie𝗵𝗵𝗃 said: if the Arabs put down their arms, there would be peace. If the Israelis put down their arms, there'd be no Israel. Yeah. And so the quote. And so to me, how do we get the message? How do we improve the messaging? And how do we dial down the hatred? Because the contribution that Jews have made to humanity, and if you want to think about tragedy, I think about the 6 million people that died that were playing the piano or the violin or making scientific discovery or medical discovery. I think of all of this wasted intellectual activity, this loss to humanity. So how do we get the?
Look, first of all,
how do we calm
Anthony,
it down?
You really are a 𝗲𝗺𝗃𝗵ite. I wish all Jews love Jews as much as you do.
My producer says that I'm not a Jew, but I'm Jewish. Okay, I'm Jewish. But I said to you before this started, if you believe in freedom, Kennedy got to the wall in Berlin. He stood before the wall and he said, "Ich bin ein Berliner." I can't speak Hebrew, but I think if you believe in freedom, then we're all Jews, because the Jews are the first domino that goes. Okay, and then you don't think that domino is coming for you, but guess what? Once the first domino goes, the dominoes start rolling. And Rabbi, we live in a world now that has 5.7 billion people that are living under authoritarianism. Go look at the world, go look at the map, go look at the democracies and look at the autocrats. And the autocrats are winning. It's 5.7 billion people living under them versus us. So we have to figure this out, and we have to take back the world and make it freer and fairer.
Amen, amen, amen. Look, you covered a lot. And first of all, my vision of America is a vision that embraces a hyphen, right? You're Italian American. I'm Jewish American. These aren't the same things, but the point is we figure out, just like your childhood friendship, a way to all get along, that we all have a sense of shared destiny, even as we celebrate each other's differences. And I get into that in the beginning of the book, that there was this alternative vision. There was a famous play by a guy named Zangwill who talked about the melting pot, that somehow we all get in the same cauldron together and all of our differences allied into one shared vision of an American, which is not my vision. I actually have a vision. Another public intellectual, Horace Callan, talked about a symphony, right? That we get to celebrate your culture as an Italian American, my culture as a Jewish American, African Americans, all the different hyphens of America, that is actually what America is all about. That we can celebrate our differences and know that as important as our differences are, as human beings created in the image of God, we have an incredible amount more in common. And then as I get into it in the book, and this gets into your next question, is that there is the issue of how can we be Americans and Zionists at the one and the same time, and that is a question that really played out around 1917, the Balfour Declaration. Louis Brandeis, he was the one who sort of first articulated this vision that one is a better American by supporting Israel and the Jewish state, that these aren't. And that was actually, in its moment, a very controversial decision of someone of Brandeis's stature to make. He was a Supreme Court justice. He was in a position of prominence, the highest Jew in the land, and he came out in favor of Jewish self-determination in what was then Palestine. And the story of American Zionism has really continued henceforth, the creation of the State of Israel, all the way up through today. But the charge of dual loyalty is a pernicious one, right? That somehow you are suspect as an American by dint of supporting self-determination in Israel. And that's something that we see on the left, that sometimes dog whistles that we see on the right, that we hear on the right, that somehow American Jews are less than full Americans because of loyalties to support Jewish self-determination in Israel. And the last thing I'll say is, strong Zionist as I am, and it really pains me, I just want to get this out here, that somehow in this season, and I'm not unaware that the elections are coming out, right? Somehow the word Zionist has become a bad word, which for me is an expression of Jewish self-determination. So it's a very painful moment that we're living in right now, where that proposition has somehow become controversial. Even with that being said, no different than I can protest my government here in America as an expression of my patriotism, my love of country, so too as an American Jew, I can express dissent with this or that decision, depending on my politic, with the Israeli government, not out of, or let me frame it in the positive, and I do that out of love of the state of Israel. So I have no expectation that every American Jew walks in lockstep with this or that Israeli government. If 500,000 Israelis can protest on the street every Saturday night out of love of country, American Jews can also have a wide berth as far as expressing their love for Israel.